WIFTBPM.
All right, well, Angela Oya Fumike. As you know, this is I Do, I Did, I Don't on the What's in It for the Black People media. Start our way into this journey of divorce and healing. So we came together under a survival mentality, not under a friendship of being in love. First being friends and then being in love or growing in love. We came together under, we're trying to survive, we're two kids trying to survive. Okay, we're going to survive together because if you're handling this end of the survival and I'm handling this end, years that you've accepted this is what it's been, and now you've made this decision, and he wasn't there. He wasn't even seeing that you were done. Here's what it was. Just like I ignored on the front end that he didn't love me like that, he was so disconnected from me by the point when I decided to leave that he didn't see the writing on the wall. Wow. Just didn't see it. But he didn't know that woman because he never took the time to meet her. Mm-hmm. And so you created your plan, and that's key, I think, in having a plan. If you are going to, whether you're deciding together that this isn't going to work any longer and we're splitting, and having a plan on how you're going to move forward is pretty key. You knew at this point I had to create your own plan, and you were moving forward with that. In my case, I didn't have a plan. Things happened pretty abruptly, and I was creating the plan on the fly along the way. I don't recommend that. You forgive yourself. You forgive you. Do the work of forgiving yourself that you may be able to actually forgive others.
Good morning. This is Tasha Napper here with I Do, I Did, I Don't on What's in It for the Black People media. Thank you all for joining. I see you. I am happy that you are here with me today as we talk about things related to divorce and helping each person that may be walking through the process, starting the process, ending the process, to survive and thrive throughout the process. So this is a show about making sure that folks are mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually well through the process, because it can be a doozy. It really can be. And for most people, I think we experience the pain, the joy, for some people there's some joy related to it, but it really throws you. It really, really does. So this show is here to impart knowledge, to impart encouragement and strength to those who are walking through. So I am so glad that you have joined me this morning. And for those faithful followers and listeners, I appreciate you so much for the interaction. So I want those of you joining today to make sure that you like, share, and follow. Make sure you click on follow What's in It for the Black People media. And in addition to that, follow the I Do, I Did, I Don't Facebook page as well. We all know someone who has walked through divorce, who has knowledge to share. We know someone who may be contemplating or walking through it. And so I want you to share the information, share the pages, because there is so much knowledge here. There is so much encouragement here. And there are people who can provide support as you walk through the process. So like, share, follow, and let's get rolling on today. So last week, I started talking about marriage advice to younger women. And so the question I posed was, as a divorced woman, what advice would you give to a younger woman getting married? So I did my unofficial poll, asked some questions, and got some really, really good and very interesting, thoughtful answers. So to recap what we did last week, let's start there first, because I want to make sure that you're getting all of the information. And if you didn't watch last week, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that show, because it was ripe with good information. So the first post, one of the major responses I got from people was just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't even get married. Don't think about it. And I think there is some wisdom in there. But that's one of those things that I believe is hard to tell people. It's like telling a young person, don't grow up. Just be patient. You don't want to grow up so fast. And all you want to do when you're younger is get to a place where you're an adult and you can make adult decisions and you can have some agency over yourself in a way that you haven't under a parent. So saying don't do it is really tough. But why do people say that? When I ask to double click, I'm going to come back to that one around as we start talking through the rest of this. Then folks said, number 2, wait. Date, get perspective, experience a few folks before you settle on one person. They said, take your time, give yourself time to see how the other person that you're interested in marrying behaves in certain situations. How do they behave under pressure? How do they behave with family? You need to see how they deal with conflict. All of these things that come about if you give yourself time and if you give the relationship time to develop. So that one other thing people said that I thought was really great was really understand how the other person fights. So when you have, not necessarily physically, we're not talking about you bobbing and weaving, duking stuff out. We're talking about when you have a disagreement, how do they approach that? How does the other person value what you're saying and bring it to the table and work through the situation? So give it time, because you need to see that. You need to give yourself time to get past that euphoric stage of being in love and being with someone, and really make sure that you get a good picture and see the real person. And see the real person in several different situations so that you are informed as you go forward. So that was number 2. Number 1, don't do it. We're going to come back to that one. Number 2 was wait. Number 3, folks said if you have any inkling of doubt, you need to pause. Maybe you do move forward, but if there is some sense of doubt, give that some credit. Give yourself credit. You're not crazy. Take the time that you need to work through that, because you want to walk forward knowing that this is a good decision and that you're well informed about the decision. Marriage is work, as folks said. So, while there is some work, there are some non-negotiables that can be at play, and you need to make sure that as you move forward, that it is not one of the non-negotiables. So if you have an inkling of doubt, take a minute, take a pause. Your instinct is probably telling you something that your brain's not willing to process as much, because you're kind of in this euphoric state, but listen to it. Don't go into it thinking you're going to change someone. They're going to change on their own, or you're going to be a catalyst for that change, because a lot of times that's not how it goes. What you see is what you get. And while people will work on things, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to become a different person. So, number 1, don't do it. Number 2, wait. Number 3, if you have an inkling of doubt, pause, work through that. Number 4, folks said, get a prenuptial agreement. Get a prenup. And they said that because after they got on the other side of divorce and started actually, once they started going through the process of divorce, folks realized divorce is a contract. It is a business contract. So you may have gone into a marriage and thought, okay, this is a covenant. We're deciding we're going to live our lives together. But think back to those marriage vows when you vowed all your earthly goods to the other person. When you stand for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. All of those things now matter in a divorce, and people don't really understand that fully when they're getting married, because if they did, I think they may respond differently in protecting the things that they have should this not work. Now, I wish you all the success in the world. I hope that it does work for you, and that you don't have to, you don't have a difficult time once if you do get to a place that you can both agree. But once you get, typically, when you get into the situation of divorce, it's, all the gloves come off, a different person comes out. The person that you married is not necessarily the person that you're divorcing at that point, because there's a reason for the divorce. And so it becomes very difficult to negotiate without all of the emotion and in a fair place, because there's quite this sense of fear of what's going to happen to my life next. What's going to come of me if I don't have access to this money, if I don't have access to this home or these assets or this pension or this retirement, whatever it is. Folks are really, it becomes a very different game. And for the court, it is a contract. It is really a financial deal. And they are trying to make sure if children are involved that the best decisions are made in the best interest of the children. But you don't really understand how assets get split at the end. Whether you worked hard and the other person never worked, it's what it is. These are marital assets together. So many people said, get a prenup, protect your assets, secure them as yours, especially if you walk in with something, but also even if you don't have much. If you're starting out and it's early in your career and you don't really have a pension yet, or you have a teeny tiny pension, you may want to think about protecting that and what you earn throughout the years in that pension before you ever proceed in marriage. And then when you are there, be involved with the finances. So important. Folks said, you need to make sure that number 5, you have some financial independence. So let me go back. Number 1, don't do it. Number 2, wait. Should you decide to do it, wait. Number 3, if you have an inkling of doubt, you need to make sure that you pause and work through that first. Number 4 was get a prenup. And number 5, have some financial independence. Folks said have your own bank account in your name only. Make sure that you have some funds that are separate from the other person, his or hers, and from a joint account. So joint accounts can be good things to make sure that you're managing the households and expenses and the things that you have together. But you also want to ensure that should something happen, you have access to monies that are going to help you to move forward. And sometimes, this is not necessarily just about protecting yourself later. Sometimes you may want to, you want some level of independence, right? Where you're coming together as one, in this marriage, 2 people becoming one. You're sharing things. You're deciding up front that you are sharing this life together, these assets together, and whatever you're building during the time of marriage together. But you might want to have, a separate account so that should you want to surprise your spouse, you have the ability to do that. It's not like, okay, they're going to see everything that's happening. Some people think that that's a great way of operating. But folks basically said when they got on the other side of divorce, they realized have a stash, have a rainy day fund, have the emergency fund, whatever it is. And that's why it was so important to have a separate account, because sometimes folks were surprised that the divorce was coming or that it came at them. And if the other spouse is the person managing all the finances and you have not had involvement, then it becomes very difficult to manage your finances moving forward when everything else is sort of falling apart around you. And you're having to deal with this very highly emotional situation. So you want to make sure that you have that. People said, make sure you have some financial independence. And now, so that was number 5. So now getting to the stuff we did not cover last week, which is why we have part 2 today. Don't ignore the red flags. So many times we do this. So many times we think, oh, it's really nothing. I could deal with that. And we don't give enough credence to the fact that there are some red flags and that they may be serious. So you have to recognize, first of all, when you're dating, you're trying to show the best of yourself to everyone. You want to make sure that you're the chosen prize, right? That they don't see red flags that they decide, I don't know if I want to move forward with this. And so we're behaving a little differently, and we're acting a little differently because we're showing our best. We're trying to show our best, right? But whatever you struggle with now, you're going to struggle with in the future. And it very well may be the undoing of the relationship. So if there are red flags, and red flags can come in lots of different forms. It could be the way they manage their money or not manage it well. It could be the other relationships that they have with friends or exes or whatever that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You're not quite sure what's really happening under the surface for what you see in those relationships. But you got a little feeling that something doesn't feel quite right. It could be the way that you see them interact with their family or with your children if you have children. There are so many different things that could be red flags. It could be the way they fight. You know, remember all that stuff we said about waiting, the reason you would want to wait so that you see how this person behaves in different situations. Maybe they don't have the skills to really work through conflict resolution. And you see that, and they're not willing to gain the skills. That's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. And that's going to be a major problem for you. So don't ignore. Don't think, okay, well, we'll just go to counseling right now. We can't do it because we're too busy planning a wedding and, you know, we've got X, Y, Z going on. When you do that, you are not setting yourself up for success. So you want to make sure that you're not ignoring the red flags that exist now, because they are going to continue to be there. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to be perfect. So let's stop here for a second. You don't have to be perfect, and you're not looking for the person that is perfect, because that doesn't exist. And we all know that. Everybody has their stuff. The question is, what stuff are you willing to deal with? Because it's going to be there. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. But are we willing to do the work, to put the work in for the success of the relationship? Are we willing to give a little bit, move a little bit, try a little bit in order for this to be successful? Because if we're not, if the other partner is not, then it's going to be a struggle. And I think we would all agree it's going to be a struggle, because if you're saying right now, okay, when we fight, when we disagree, we can't make progress. One person's accusing, the other person's not taking responsibility, all those things. And you say, okay, I think we should get some help. Let's see somebody and see if we can learn. Let's read a book and see if we can learn some different skills. If the other person that you're considering marrying is not willing to put that work in to do that, they're not willing to read the book, they're showing you how they intend to behave in the marriage. So don't ignore that. If they're not willing to see a therapist or talk through and try to have the adult conversation about how you are going to manage this and create some boundaries and stick to those things, they're showing you something. There could be some red flags. I don't think you want to ignore those, because you are making a commitment going into marriage that you're going to sign a contract, essentially. And the divorce is a document to undo that contract and now disperse assets in an equitable way. Equitable, not necessarily meaning it's equal 50%. But if you knew that going forward, we might make some different decisions if we understood really what happens in a divorce. So don't ignore the red flags. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening. Is the person cryptic in their communication about where they've been or who they've been with? Are they, I should do a whole show on this as I'm thinking about it. You know, is there this, you think one thing is happening and said, and there's always a misunderstanding or a disagreement. Is there gaslighting happening? I'm going to have to do a show on that one, because that's a very good topic. And a lot of people I've learned, I didn't know what it was until I started working through some things in therapy and understood, okay, I can see this. This is something that I've experienced in my life, and that's happened quite often. So yeah, that's another show, another day. But those red flags. Pay attention. Pay attention, because, when things feel off in a way, something is off. You can't put your finger on it yet, but it doesn't mean you ignore it. You can decide to be that person that just ignores and nothing's wrong and I'm just going to pretend like it's all okay. That may not work out so well. Typically, it does not. We can't operate in denial and think that issues will just go away or magically resolve themselves. That's not how it works. You have two people involved who are deciding we're going to do this through thick and thin, through good and bad, and we're going to have to figure out how to manage and work together in order for both of us to advance in this relationship, in this partnership that we have. And so you've got to pay attention to what's happening. That means you got to pay attention to the finances. It means you've got to pay attention to how the other person's spending their time. When there is something that feels a little bit off, pay attention to the expectations that the other person has. Are they reasonable? Are they reasonable for your relationship? Because what's reasonable for me may not be reasonable for you. And oftentimes there is this judgment of, what you should do. Girl, you should do this, or you should tell him this, or if it was me, I would. But it's not you, and it's not your relationship. And you have to be comfortable with the decisions that you're making for your relationship. You know the other partner, you know the spouse. So pay attention, be careful. And then the other point that folks made was don't lose perspective. So don't lose perspective on yourself, on the relationship. And I saw Cassandra add this in a little bit earlier in the comments. Don't lose your identity. Huge topic that came up. Huge topic that folks said, do not lose your identity. It is so easy to find yourself in a relationship that you are trying to make work, and you are the person constantly moving a little bit, giving a little bit, changing a little bit. And before you know it, you look back a few years and you don't really recognize the person that you are any longer, because you have compromised so much of yourself. And life changes at the same time around you. Jobs change. The climate, financial climate changes. The social climate changes. Your friends change. Your family structure changes, right? Kids can come in, and for women particularly, it is so easy to become mom that you're no longer you, and continuing to become who you are in the marriage, and who you as a person, who you are in the marriage as a wife. So I'm particularly speaking to women on this topic because we tend to be the people, I think, that lose our identity most. We give so much. We give and give and give. We are giving to our partner. We're giving to our children. We're giving to our job. We're giving to those other endeavors that we might have, whether it's your social group, your church, your fraternity, your sorority for women. We are so busy giving so much of ourselves that we wind up very depleted, and we're losing our identity in the process. And before you know it, you find yourself so ingrained in everything that he is doing and everything that he wants for his dreams or his career, and everything that all of his friends and his family, that you don't have the support structure and the things that are feeding you any longer. So it's so important that you do not lose your identity, that you don't lose that for him. You don't lose it for your job. You don't lose it for your children. You have to keep your tribe, if you will. You have to keep your network and your associations and your friends and those ties strongly with your family and whoever you had coming into this. Now, does that mean some people won't fall away? Yes, that's going to happen. But when you sit back and you think, who's for me in this? Who's making sure that I'm taken care of? Who can I go to and really depend on? Should this not work? Think about it. Like, should this not work? You step back. Who do I have? For me, who's on Team Tasha? If I'm having trouble with that statement and really identifying a couple of people, it might be a challenge. And then you think, okay, well, I step back. Who's on Team Spouse? And if everybody that you know kind of came through relationships with the other person, most likely they're going to be on that other person's team. It doesn't mean that they may not feel for you, love you, think about you, but at some point there is this separation that's happening, and you want to make sure that you have a support network. This is not just about forcing friends to choose. It's not just about, who's going to side with me. No, you need some real people that are going to give you the really real about what is really happening with you and what you need, and they're there for you to provide the support. So a lot of times women felt like they lost their identity. This was a huge topic, and people really, really wanted to talk about it. So I'm going to take a break now, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that on the other side, because there's so much that people had to say about it. I want to stay there for a minute, and then we'll move forward to a couple more things that folks said. So you're listening to I Do, I Did, I Don't. While we're taking this break, make sure you take the time to like, to share, and to follow the page, and I'll see you on the other side of the break.
WIFTVPN. Welcome to Inhale, Exhale, you guys. We are your health home girls, Dr. Tanksley and Danny Time. We are being joined today by a guest, Samantha Allen, who's going to work with us today about attachment styles.
The overview of attachment styles is basically how we connect with people, how we have relationships. And I just want to clear up, it's not just about romantic relationships with your family, with your friends, how you host relationships, period. It's important to look at yourself and figure out, what am I contributing to the relationship, or why am I attracting this style of a relationship? So all the attachment styles develop from your caregiving style. They say that from 0 to 5, you have already developed your attachment style. If you had a secure attachment style, your parents were very in tune with your moods, in tune with your behavior. They kind of soothe you when you cry. For secure, you grow up to be more communicative. You have good communication style. You feel positive about yourself and about others. You just have a healthier, you're able to, so on and so forth. And that just comes from the love, attention, and caregiving that you were given as a child, which usually develops a secure attachment style.
So on that note, with healing these things and changing your attachment style, we're reprogramming ourselves. Right. It's like our inner child that is showing up in these anxious, attachments, and we are wanting our way. We're reprogramming.
Chicago Legal Network is the collaboration of attorneys that concentrate in many areas of the law most needed in Chicago neighborhoods. The CLN lawyers focus on personal injury, criminal defense, and other issues. The CLN lawyers all average over 20 years of legal experience and are dedicated to helping the Chicago community. The Chicago Legal Network is committed to developing black lawyers through mentorship and co-representation. So if you were injured in a car accident, slip and fall, or injured on the job, or you need assistance with criminal defense, including driving violations and DUI, check out ChicagoLegalNetwork.com for more information, or call 773-912-3545. 773-912-3545.
You better be careful, baby, be careful. This is a baby making tone. Better be careful what your radio on. This is a baby making tone. Better be careful what your radio on. You let down your head when you're feeling sexy. You bite on your lip when you're holding your tongue. You uncross your legs.
Hey, welcome back to I Do, I Did, I Don't with Tasha Napper on What's in It for the Black People Media. Again, make sure you are sharing, and following this page, the I Do, I Did, I Don't page. And What's in It for the Black People Media? What's in It for the Black People Media is doing some amazing things. I think there's some great content that is here for us, by us, really focused on the things that matter to us. So not just this show, but so many different shows that are on this this network, that it's so important for you to help, for you to just get the information to gain perspective, but also to help other people to get information that's going to help them to gain perspective. So make sure you're following What's in It for the Black People Media, that page, so that you get the notifications about shows that are coming up. And make sure you follow I Do, I Did, I Don't, so that you are getting the latest broadcasts that are happening for this show as well. I saw my friend Christine join me this morning. Hi, Christine. I'm so happy that you were able to join. My radio bestie, Cassandra, she is ride or die. She is here every single show and always commenting, always adding good perspective. We actually had her on the show once and talked about her story and how just how she overcame and how well she did. So I am so proud of her and the woman that she has become post-divorce on the other side of it. You know, she's doing some great things, and that's what we want to see. That's why I do this show, because I want to help impart that for others that are walking through a divorce, who have walked through, who have found it challenging, who have been completely just broadsided by the whole process and what it means and just how it has transpired. But then now you're rebuilding who you are. You're rebuilding your confidence in some cases to move forward in life. You're rebuilding your finances and your family structure. But you can do it. So many people have been successful. And so it's wonderful to look on the other side and see folks who have walked through it, who have walked through the pain of a divorce, who have walked through all the drama of a divorce, who've walked through all the costs related to a divorce and are thriving now. People like Cassandra. So it's so awesome to have those examples. And it's so awesome to have the space to just talk about it. Let's have the space to be open. This happens. It happens a lot. It might be your fault. It might not be, right? 1 out of 2 marriages generally is ending in divorce. And so you got a 50-50 shot. Is basically what the stats are. So when the odds are in that way, you've got to, you've got to think about what you need to be successful. I wanted to say you got to hedge your bets. That's not really what I'm saying, but you need to make sure that you're successful. If we knew that you had a 1 in 2 chance of having a car accident, I think you would make sure you had car insurance, right? Not just because it's legally mandated, but 50-50 chance I'm going to have an accident and there are going to be some costs associated with that, right? And so it's important that you think about this in that same way. We tend to get so euphoric about it, and in some cases so religious about it, that the topic of marriage, that's it I'm talking about, that we don't think practically about what do we need to do, not just so that I am well, but so that the other party is well also, and that we plan for that when times are good and kind of euphoric, and we can think about things in a more sober way, hopefully. And so I want you all to just think about that, to share, because there are so many people that experience it, but sometimes it's like we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the difficulty. We don't talk about the pain. We don't give place to exactly what this process does to us as individuals, what it does to a family. And we say things that are kind of these pat solutions, right? Like you'll get through it. It gets better. Those are things that are good to know, but it's also good to know that, damn, I'm having a day and I'm just, like I feel like I want to go hurt somebody today. I feel like I want to go just act out in some ways. I feel like I'm the person that was just stupid in this whole process because I did XYZ, or because I didn't do XYZ, or because I effed up, whatever that is. We need to give place to that. We need to give voice to that. And that's part of what this show is doing, is giving voice to it. And so I ask a lot of questions because I want to understand, do people feel the way I felt? And in a lot of cases, yes, people did. There were different experiences, but people did. They just weren't talking about it as much. And when we don't talk about it, when we don't share our stories, then we don't give the others the benefit of that knowledge. And so I am open to sharing, and many of you, it sounds like, are too. So I encourage you to ask the questions. If there are things that you want to talk about, hear about, put it in the comments so that I can really serve you. This is a show about making sure that you have the information, that you can be well, that you're able to pass that on, that you have that different perspective. So on the other side of the break, before we took a break, we were talking about these things that, as a divorced woman, what advice would you give another younger woman who's getting married? And we walked through several things when people said don't do it. So I want to come back to that one now. I want to come back to the don't do it piece. I think a lot of people said don't do it because they realized too late what they had gotten into in terms of a marriage. It's really easy to get married. And I'm going to say this in a way that sounds super, super simplistic, but you find a person, you go sign it, you go apply for a marriage license. It might cost you, $25. I don't know how much it costs now these days, but it's probably under $100. And then you find somebody to marry you. You say, I do. Sign a sheet of paper. You're married. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done. It is not that easy to get divorced. Now, it can be. It absolutely can be easy to get divorced if you both agree and you do the same thing. Sign a sheet of paper, done. Generally, that's not how it goes, though. It becomes a much harder process because there are assets involved. So it's so easy to sign up and say, yes, I'm going to share all my earthly goods with this person, which is, part of the marriage vows. But then when it's time to separate and actually share and actually divide, it becomes a whole different deal. And if you ever sit in on a what people said, why they said don't do it is because now they have the perspective and understand how difficult that is. And many people were just traumatized by the process, traumatized by the way that it played out and the reality of understanding now what marriage meant and what that meant they had and didn't have, and how the court had so much say in what they did. So many people said, I can manage this. I don't have to get married legally in order to, if my concern is that I have property to pass on, that I have rights to these things, or that you can take care of that legally in a different way. It doesn't mean that you have to get married. I think a long time ago, that was the case. You had to get married in order to protect the passing down of property. Some people will say, yes, you get a better tax benefit if you're married. True. I don't know if that's worth all the pain of in the drama of getting a divorce and the separation of assets later, because you get a tax. I don't think we're really getting married for tax refunds, but I will say, or tax benefits, but it is an advantage. And so that's why a lot of people said, just don't do it. Some folks said, if you were going to, you need to, number one, make sure you think about, if this ended, what could this look like? And what do we want it to look like if this ended? And have that conversation. I feel like so many of us are scared to have the conversation because we think we're planning for failure. No, you got a 50-50 shot given the results. Now, you can think that your shot is better than that, and it may be for some time. It may forever be a great situation. Then you just don't need you don't need the plan. You don't need the backup plan, right? So what's the harm in doing that? and trying to make sure that you are successful in the process. Folks said you should go to a family law court and sit in on a divorce proceeding. Sit in on it and see exactly how it goes. The emotion is taken out of the process. What you think is important to you because you want the heirloom that your great grandmother gave you and what the court sees and the judge is dividing stuff, it's really an emotionless process in many ways. It is a transaction. Do you know the stack of the pile that the court has to deal with in terms of divorce cases and family law cases that are coming forward to them? Both parents have rights, both in terms of children, if there are children involved in your marriage, and they're trying to get through these things. They are trying, the judge's responsibility is to move this stuff along. So they're trying to get through, and they're like, hey, you got 10 minutes to stand here and say what you need to say, and let's make a decision, go. So while it may feel like your entire world is shifting and changing, they've seen this every day. They see this every day. They've seen so much. So they're not really all that concerned about your one case. It is a legal contract that you've essentially signed, and now we need to undo that contract in an equitable way. That's really all they're trying to do and get you through the process. So you need that reality check. People said, sit in, hear it, see what it says. Other folks said, make sure you're planning for success in the marriage. You know, so many times we're so focused on the dress, the tux, the wedding party, the venue choice, all those things that are important for the day of the wedding, but not all the stuff that you need to be successful actually being married. Get the premarital counseling so that you understand some things to give yourself a better shot. So talk to a therapist. Get the premarital counseling. If it's through your church or something else, folks said, make sure that you give yourself time. Make sure that you do some of those things to give yourself a better shot, like the premarital counseling, and make sure that you're thinking about setting yourself up for success. If you can do all those things, then yes, move forward. Do what you need to do, but don't shortchange yourself and create a problem later because you failed to do it because you're in denial that it can happen to you. You cannot operate from that place of denial that it can happen to you, and then you're like, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, I wish I had, and now it's too late to actually do that. So make sure that you're sober, you're approaching it, you understand what's really, really going on. So when we talked about losing your identity, I wanted to stay there a little bit because what a lot of women found is that they had to rebuild their entire community around them when they were getting divorced, that they did not have the support network that they thought they had. They had not leveraged their network or they hadn't nurtured the network that they have for people around them. And many found themselves going back into the workplace, having to reinvent who they were, rebrand, retool, retrain. And they had very skinny and thin relationships and hadn't focused on developing themselves so that they could be well. So now they're behind the 8 ball. It's time, I'm divorced now. I've got to get back into the workplace, and I have to rebuild all of these things in order for me to be successful. Super, super important that you make sure that you're not losing your identity and professionally, that you're not losing it personally just for you and who you are, and that you're not losing it with your friends. If another red flag, if the person wants to spend all of their time with you, and every waking moment, it's like, we just got to be together because I just love companionship and I want to be, red flag. Red flag. It's, you can think that it's sweet and that they just love you and that they want to spend all the time, or you can look on the opposite side and say they're monopolizing my time. They are preventing me from having these other friendships, relationships, those are red flags. Those are red flags because you need to maintain your identity. You need to maintain your friends. You need to still have your date nights with your spouse, but your date nights with your friends, your family moments and times. Those things are important to keep you whole as a person. And you have to know what those things are. Sometimes we don't, and sometimes we learn along the way. So now it's time to renegotiate what we need in order to be well in the relationship. So let me go through these again. First thing, don't do it. Should you decide to proceed, the second one was wait. If you have any, just wait. Give yourself some time. Give the relationship some time. Give it time to unfold and see who the other person is. If you have an inkling of doubt, number 3, pause. Pause, work through that. Make sure this is the right decision for you. Number 4, get a prenup to protect yourself and the other person. Number 5, make sure you have financial independence even in the relationship. Number 6, don't ignore the red flags. Number 7, don't lose your identity. And number 8, the last one, folks said, don't marry for love only. Interesting, right? Interesting. What do you think that means? Don't marry for love only. Folks said, make sure that your current and future goals are aligned. I have heard so many stories of on both sides. So I'm not going to be biased in this way. I've heard stories on both sides of, I've got this person, we're together, we're married, we're working on it, and now the wife doesn't want to work anymore. The kids came, we didn't talk about this. Or the kids came, and yes, there is a lot of work to be done in raising children. And it is our responsibility when we decide to do it. And so now she wants to stay home, and I'm not willing to take on the full financial burden. And this is a problem. I've also heard on the other side, I got married to this dude, and now he has been unemployed for 5 years of our 5 years of marriage. This was not the deal. I'm not cool with this. We've talked about it. This is a deal breaker for me. And so when folks were saying don't marry for love only, in part they're saying make sure that you are on the same page, that you are running at the same speed toward goals, that you see the same drive in the other person. Because if you don't, it's eventually going to become a problem because there is a mismatch. There is a mismatch in what you're going for and trying to achieve and what they're going for. And so last week I mentioned that the Bible says something about being equally yoked. And we hear that all the time. And what does that really mean? And we think that it means simply that I should be marrying someone that has the same religious beliefs as me. But I'm going to double click on that a little bit and say, I don't think that's all that it means. If that's what you think it means, I don't think that's all that it means. If you think about a yoke, it is the old wooden piece that goes over 2 oxen who are pulling a cart. And it's meant to keep them together and to keep them in step moving forward together. So if one of the oxen is moving too fast, the yoke is going to restrict them from moving that fast so that they can stay together. So if you're running 100 miles an hour toward your career and your career goals and building your business or whatever it is that you're trying to do, and the other person is kind of the turtle in the relationship moving at, 10 miles an hour, you can't pull a cart like that. That's not going to work. You're not equally yoked now because one is moving way faster than the other. That's a disaster waiting to happen. And so people talked about this idea of potential and marrying potential. I can see this person's dream. I believe in their dream. I believe they're going to move forward and do these wonderful things. And I'm going to be here to support them and support that. Awesome. Awesome. You want someone like that on your team. But having the dream and having the drive and the discipline to go achieve that are 2 different things. And so you want someone, when you're thinking about potential, there should be some demonstration of the potential, definitely at my age, I'm not marrying potential at this point. You need to have something to show, because the time out for potential at this age, like, what have you accomplished? What have you done? But earlier on, as a young woman, you haven't gotten to that stage yet. As a young man, you haven't gotten to that stage yet. So what do you see from the person? Do you see the potential? You see the dreams, but do you see the discipline? Do you see the desire to put the work in? Do you see the work ethic from that other person? Because if you don't, a dream is without any action behind it, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. Everybody has great ideas. And I can't remember who it was that said that, there's the graveyard is rich in ideas. But if you don't put the work behind the idea, the dream, the potential to make it a reality, then it's really not worth a whole lot. And so you want to know and see if this is if this is the partner that you see being able to actually achieve that potential. Do they have the tools? Do they have the desire? Do they have the work ethic? Are they going to do what they need to do to make it happen? Because if not, you just got a good idea right now. And you got a dream that's going to be a dream 10 years from now, and no action has been put behind it or taken. So when folks said don't marry for love only, that is part of what they meant and what they were talking about, because you want to make sure that your current and your future goals are aligned. You want to make sure that your drive, that work ethic is aligned to go get what you're trying to get and accomplish. If you are two who are like, we are cool, we going to work these jobs until we retire, and then we're going to sit back and collect our retirement, our pension, our 401k, and that's your speed, awesome. You want somebody doing that, because if that's where you are and the other person is constantly got a new idea and a new business venture and they're trying to put some money behind that and move forward, and you're like, this is not what I signed up for. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about those kinds of things as well, and not only marrying because you have all these emotional feelings of love, right? The butterflies in the stomach, the little Tweety birds around your head, or whatever is going on. You want to make sure there's some other things. And then if there's some things that are concerning, like one person said, if they have annoying behaviors, check and see if you can deal with that. Because if you really can't deal with it, it's going to be an issue all the relationship. And nobody wants to be nagged to death. Nobody wants to be criticized to death. But there are things that if you know, I just cannot deal with that. Okay. That's fair. That's okay. It's okay. Move along. It's not the end all be all, because it's not going to go well for you, nor is it going to go well for the other person. So I'm going to recap these again. Number one, folks said don't do it. If you're going to do it, make sure that you really soberly understand what happens in the undoing of a marriage. Number two, wait, give it time. Give it time, see what you need to see. Number three, if you have an inkling of doubt, wait a little bit longer. Just pause for a second. Work through that. Don't discount it. Number four, get your prenup. And number five, have some financial independence, meaning your own separate bank account in your name only, your emergency fund, whatever it is. Make sure that you have it, and the other person should too. Number six, don't ignore the red flags. Number seven, don't lose your identity in the marriage. And then number eight was don't marry for love only. I think there is some very rich information here, some very rich wisdom that came from women who have walked through a divorce, and this is what they would say to the younger women. So share it with the younger women, give them that perspective, so they're walking in with eyes wide open. They're not walking in unawares. And the hope is that in sharing that information, we're creating a different reality, and that they too, if they find themselves in the situation of getting divorced, they can be well on the other side of it, because they have done the work, and they have prepared themselves up front. They have a sober picture of what it is. So you will be well. Also, my hope and my wish for you is that you continue to be well physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally on the other side of divorce. and that you see great examples that encourage you to keep moving forward and to do it well. Have a great Sunday, and I'll see you again next week.
Oh.